Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to finally wrap up the Dark Souls trilogy, because today I platinumed the long-awaited Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 3 is a fan favorite, and for good reason. It has pretty much everything a good sequel should. Iconic locations, fun weapons, great NPCs, awesome callbacks, and quite possibly the most stacked roster of bosses out of any FromSoft game. At the end of each Soulsborne video, I do rank all the games from worst to best, and spoiler alert, this one's up there. I hope I can do this incredible game justice in the limited time I have here today. Dark Souls 3 has 43 trophies, a difficulty of 6 out of 10, and an estimated completion time of a whopping 110 hours. Good God, that is the most we've seen so far. Hopefully the majority of it doesn't consist of collectibles and farming random items. That would be so crazy, right? But without further ado, let's get to the game. Like every other Souls game, we start with a character creator, and the trend of me making wacky characters is back because joining me for my Dark Souls 3 playthrough is the Joker. Oh, sorry, the Jonkler. And we're gonna be running the Knight as our starter class because I just can't resist a good strength build with some badass looking armor. I've literally done this in pretty much every other playthrough. Alright, here we are. We spawn in the Cemetery of Ash, which just has so many nice civilians to talk to. They're great, definitely. I should also mention here that Dark Souls 3 is very similar to Elden Ring in terms of combat systems. It took all the way to Dark Souls 3 to introduce an FP bar and weapon arts. As someone whose first game was Elden Ring, that is very weird. I genuinely did not know that it took that long until what I thought were basic mechanics to get added to the games. But it's good to see them, they were sorely missed. Then I found my first bonfire and got a trophy. It's the quintessential freebie. And not even 5 minutes into the game, I encountered the first boss. Yeah, Dark Souls 3 doesn't beat around the bush. It's aware you probably play the other games before, so it just throws you right in. And Udex Gundyr is a perfect first boss. Not difficult, but it gets you warmed up. He also has a second stage where he apparently gets the Venom symbiote. Where the fuck did that come from? But I destroyed him first try. Yeah, I know. I'm the GOAT, and I got a trophy. And I also got another trophy at the same time for embering up for the first time. This just happens whenever you kill a boss or use the ember item. Then I made it to this game's Firelink Shrine, and it might be my favorite hub area in the whole series, including Majula. Please don't kill me. It's an awesome hub area, complete with my boy Andre the Blacksmith from Dark Souls 1. Good to have you back, buddy. The only downside of this area is that it literally is not connected to any other area in the game. You have to teleport to the first main level from the bonfire. World connectivity is a lost art, unfortunately. Dark Souls 1 is rolling in its grave right now. But on the bright side, the first area of this game is really cool. The High Wall of Lothric has some great visuals and scenery, and I even got the Symbol of Avarice from killing my very first mimic of the game, which is extremely lucky. It's like the best piece of equipment for farming. Along my journey through this area, I found Emma, the High Priestess of Lothric Castle, and she lets me join the first covenant of the game, netting me a trophy. And right after her is this area's main boss, Vort of the Boreal Valley. He kind of looks like one of those roided up horses. And his fight is really nothing special, to be honest. Just stay close and play aggressive. But somehow this seemingly normal, unremarkable boss got literally the most iconic song to ever come out of a FromSoft game. It's the meme song. How the hell did this guy get the meme song? I was genuinely baffled when I heard this song. I didn't know where it was from. But with Vort defeated and me now being one trophy richer, it's time for me to move on to the next area. And I get there via these harpy looking fuckers a la on Orlando. This next location is the Undead Settlement, a much blander and uglier area. But fortunately for me, there's a shining beacon of light amidst this dull, depressing town. And his name is Sigurd of Katarina, the GOAT NPC. He is my guy. We kill this demon together and then he falls asleep. What a badass. Enough said. I also ended up voluntarily getting myself kidnapped so I could be taken to a highly missable covenant known as the Mound Makers. And whenever I hear the name Mound Makers, I just immediately think of shit. Like piles and piles of shit. I'm sorry, I just think it's very funny if you think about it like that. The boss of the Undead Settlement is the Curse-Rotted Greatwood, a gimmick boss that can only only be damaged if you hit its balls. Eventually, it'll fall down into the Moundmaker Covenant area, voiding that trophy completely if you haven't already gotten it. But the boss is very easy, and that's another trophy down. Moving on to one of the worst areas in the entire game, Farron Keep. I found a couple of NPCs that will be really important later, but for now they're still pretty important because they give me a covenant and a trophy. Here I also found the Crystal Sage, aka nobody's favorite Dark Souls 3 boss. It's a basic mage, nothing special. It clones itself, you gotta find the real one. They had the same exact boss way back in Demon Souls, this is nothing new. I killed it and got a trophy, and this unlocked a path to a side area called the Cathedral of the Deep, and no cathedral is complete without its deacons. Enter the worst boss in the game. This is literally a Dark Souls 2 boss. I have next to nothing to say about this, it's just absolute slop. I thought we were done with these types of bosses from FromSoft, what the fuck. Well, I still got a trophy for killing them, even though these clowns are definitely not worthy of being trophy bosses. Whatever, back to Farron Keep. After advancing forward, I found the Poison Swamp of Dark Souls 3. Poison, my favorite. It's so good. After extinguishing 3 flames around the swamp, a door opens up. A door that leads to the first of 4 Lord of Cinder fights of this game, and also the first truly great boss of the game, because it's time for the motherfucking Abyss Watchers, y'all. These guys were once working for Artorias, but much like their master, they've been consumed by the Abyss, and this causes them to just kill each other over and over again. They're trying to eliminate the Abyss, but they also are the Abyss, so they're in a bit of a pickle. But of course, being consumed by the Abyss doesn't stop you from aura farming. The fight itself is great. It starts off as a basic one-on-one, but then midway through, another Abyss Watcher rises from the dead and ambushes me. But then after that, another Abyss Watcher joins the fray, and this one is friendly, so now the fight is equalized. After getting through the first phase, the main Abyss Watcher absorbs the power of his fallen brethren and returns once more, this time with his sword infused with fire. And this is where the fight actually gets kinda hard. The Abyss Watcher's attacks now have a fiery after effect that punish you for dodging the initial swing the wrong way. And this fight is just so fucking cool, man. I'll never be as cool as the Abyss Watchers. It took a little bit for me to get used to his attack patterns, but eventually I put the final Abyss Watcher out of his misery and got a trophy. Before moving on from Farron Keep, I found a secret area, home to a really cool wolf, and unlike Sif from Dark Souls 1, I don't have to kill this feller. Instead, he just gives me another Covenant trophy. What a good boy. The next area is the Catacombs of Karthus, and this is another one of the worst areas in the game. Damn, we're really putting all the garbage areas back to back. Hey, I'm down for it. Let's get them all out of the way. Like the Catacombs of Dark Souls 1, it's a maze trying to figure out where the hell to go in this area. Although I will say it's not nearly as bad in this game. This area is also just really dull and boring. I mean, look at it. This looks terrible. The boss of the Catacombs is High Lord Wolnir, more like High Lord Bornir, because this fight fucking sucks. All you gotta do is smack the golden rings on his arms, and that's literally it. I told you, the fight is ass. There's really not much to say about it. I guess he looks kinda cool. It gets me a trophy though, so I can't complain that much. Before advancing further, I got a secret covenant that I missed in the Cathedral of the Deep, and this one is pretty important because it also lets me respec. Very nice. And I also went back to the Undead Settlement for another covenant that I missed. This time it's the best covenant of all time, the Sunlight Covenant. Praise the sun. Then I found a secret area in the Catacombs called the Smoldering Lake, and I'm pretty sure this is the remains of Ash Lake from Dark Souls 1. I mean, come on, they're both hidden deep underground. They both have these giant tree pillars, and well, they're both lakes. However, it also has remnants of Lost Izalith from Dark Souls 1, which was where the Bed of Chaos and all the other demons were located. So maybe since Ash Lake and Lost Izalith were both deep underground, pretty close to each other in Dark Souls 1, by the time Dark Souls 3 came around, they just blended together into one big area. I don't really know, but it's pretty damn cool. Speaking of the demons, here's their king, and he is not very difficult. The purpose of this boss is to show just how weak the demons have become over time. They had a whole kingdom in Dark Souls 1, and now it's just this guy. The fall off needs to be studied. I of course get a trophy for beating this guy, and now we can finally get back above ground out of these stupid caves. I've had enough of this area. After the Catacombs, I enter the greatest area in this entire game, and one of the greatest areas in any Souls game. Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. Holy shit, this area is absolutely beautiful. And in this place is my personal favorite boss in the entire game, Pontiff Sullivan. He dual wields elemental swords, and he just looks really fucking sick. He's a lot like Rolana from the Elden Ring DLC. This cathedral is also a really sick arena to house a boss. Pontiff is definitely one of the more difficult bosses, but his first stage is really nothing that crazy. That all changes during the second stage where he spawns in a clone of himself. How this stage works is the clone does an attack, and then a second later, Pontiff will repeat that same exact attack. So you know exactly what's coming, but you have to basically dodge each attack twice. And I think this is a really cool gimmick. I like that it's kind of a duo fight, but never hits you with the stupid bullshit that comes with most other duo fights. It's still very manageable. You can kill the clone as well, which I did, but to be honest, I don't know if it's easier to kill the clone or just ignore it and overpower Pontiff. I think killing it is better. So far, this is the hardest boss in the game, but I still wasn't on him for that long, only like 10-15 minutes. I think most Souls bosses are just easy to me at this point. I've just played so many of these games. But when I killed him, I got a trophy. Peak boss, 10 out of 10, literally 0 complaints. The area after Pontiff is the designated PvP spot in Dark Souls 3. So while going through, I got invaded and something absolutely crazy happened. Oh my god, he's literally me. I simply can't fight one of my fellow jonglers. He will be remembered forever. Anyways, I also found a secret covenant in this area, so that's another trophy down. Now on to my way to the next boss, I began to realize something very groundbreaking. The Silver Knights with bows and arrows shooting me from the rooftops, the architecture of said rooftops, the giant revolving elevator. Yo, I think we're in Honor Londo. Holy shit, we're in Honor fucking Londo. I can't believe I somehow feel nostalgia for a game I played like 4 months ago. It's funny how stuff like this will do that to you. In reality though, there were 5 whole years in between Dark Souls 1 and 3, so I can only imagine the nostalgia that the day ones had during this segment. It even has Gwendolyn's secret chamber where you originally fought him, and this area actually comes into play much later in this video. Upon entering the area that previously belonged to Ornstein and Smo, I find Gwendolyn? Is that you, buddy? Nah, that's just Aldrich, the devourer of gods. He's that black sludge below Gwendolyn, and he's actually in the middle of eating the poor fella. So Gwendolyn is being puppeteered to fight me while slowly being eaten alive. I know he was kind of annoying in Dark Souls 1, but holy shit, he did not deserve all that. The actual boss fight is mid as fuck. A lot of spells, range attacks, and teleporting. It's actually very annoying to deal with. It's really the lore behind the boss that actually makes it interesting. I killed him pretty easily and got a trophy. Oh yeah, this guy was also the second Lord of Cinder. I kind of forgot about that. Well, 2 out of 4 down. The boss right after this is actually already the 3rd Lord of Cinder. You can kind of fight this boss or Aldrich in any order. It doesn't really matter. But to prepare for it, I completed Sigurd's questline because he'll join you for the battle, and it just makes everything so much more cinematic. The boss is Yorm the Giant, and this is a gimmick fight. There's the classic wind sword in the boss's arena, and it's the only thing that can do good damage. Yorm doesn't really do anything special. Sigurd and I made very quick work of this big boy. Killed him, got a trophy, celebrated one last time together, and then I never saw Sigurd again. Truly the greatest of all time. He retired in his prime. After defeating Yorm, I got teleported back to where I originally found Emma. Yeah, remember her? The girl that gave me the first covenant? Yeah, probably not, but don't worry, I also forgot who she was for a second. But now she's just dead. I don't really know what happened, but here she is. Her death triggers the next boss fight, the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. Coming from above like a full-on xenomorph, this thing is creepy looking. Another dual elemental sword fight, I like it. You can actually trigger this fight much earlier in the game. As soon as you meet Emma, you can just kill her yourself and this fight will start on its own. But I didn't do that because that is a terrible idea. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought I was gonna beat this fight without any issues. But then second stage, the bitch turned into a Beyblade and started to gain the advantage over me. Luckily, I still had most of my healing flasks, or else I would have been cooked way long ago. This boss hits hard, man. But I beat it first try and got a trophy. Now with the Dancer out of the way, Lothric Castle itself is now fully accessible for me to explore. Before going the main route that takes you up the castle, I went a side route that takes you down into the corrupted gardens with a bunch of these symbiote enemies. At the end of the garden is Osiris the Consumed King. Basically, this dude's backstory is that he was a huge fanboy of Seath the Scaleless from Dark Souls 1 for some reason. I don't know, that fight was kind of ass to me. And he wanted to beat him so bad that he experimented on himself until he turned into a dragon hybrid. He also has a son called Ocelot, and his pose in the boss fight makes it look like he's holding a child. He also talks to Ocelot in the boss fight, but unless that baby is John Cena, I don't think anything's there. This guy might just be insane. And like 75% of all Soulsborne bosses are clinically insane, so I don't think that's a bad assumption to make about this guy. Sorry, man. I don't know. I really liked How to Train Your Dragon as a kid, and you don't see me trying to turn myself into fucking Toothless. Gameplay-wise, though, this boss is pretty cool. He's very passive at first and uses only his staff to attack, but about halfway through, he just stops giving a fuck and gives into his dragon instincts. And I found this phase to be pretty hit or miss. Sometimes he just combos the hell out of you and just destroys you and you can't even do anything. Other times he manages to miss almost every single attack and just runs around the map like a drunk uncle. I still really enjoy this fight though. It's a really cool concept. I'd also say this is one of the harder fights in the game just because of his ridiculous potential. Like, you could just get absolutely deleted instantly by this guy pretty much. But I killed him on like my 3rd try, I think. I got a trophy for it. And going past Osiris, I get dropped into this area that's literally pitch black. And discovering this area actually nets me a trophy, so that's pretty nice. And this is actually a direct copy of the graveyard from the very start of the game. I believe this is actually some sort of like pocket dimension that encapsulates a version of the graveyard from the distant past. And I say this because when you reach the end of the area, you're rewarded with a rematch with Gundyr, the very first boss of this game. But this time he's not infected with the symbiote thing, so it's got to be from the past, right? It's obviously much harder than the first Gundyr fight just because we're in the late game now. He's got a bunch of brand new attacks and combos. And I've said this in other videos, but some of my favorite fights in these games are just the ones where it's you versus another dude and you're just duking it out. And I'm happy to report that this fight does not disappoint at all. This time around, although he doesn't have the symbiote, he's much more aggressive and unpredictable, especially in phase 2. He hits like a truck and in my opinion is one of the scariest bosses in the game. He has a lot of very confusing combos. This fight is awesome, one of the best in the game and the entire trilogy. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but there it is. I get a trophy for killing him, and after the boss is the Firelink Shrine, but nobody is there, which further reinforces the idea that this is set in the past. I don't really know how that's possible or how this place even exists, but I'm not gonna really question it. Now back to Lothric Castle. We're following the main path now. Not too far into the castle, I found another similar boss to Gundyr, that being the Dragon Slayer armor. And for a second I got really excited because I thought this was Ornstein, but it's not. It's just a possessed set of the same type of armor that Ornstein once wore. But this is another great duel, and the fact that the fight takes place on top of a narrow rampart that oversees all of Lothric is just too cool. Kind of reminds me of Margit from Elden Ring. The coolest thing about this fight though is the weapon that the boss uses. It's a lightning great axe, and spoiler alert, I'm gonna start using the weapon after I kill the boss. It's just too cool of a weapon to not use, and it's also insane. But this boss is a lot slower than Gundyr. His combos aren't as long, but when he does hit you, you're gonna have to use the Estus Flask, because this is for sure one of the hardest hitting bosses in the entire game. I love this fight. No complaints or criticism from me. I got a trophy for it. Let's move on to quite possibly the most badass area in the entire game, Archdragon Peak. The name is pretty fitting because this area delivers nothing but peak. This area is so sick that I get a trophy just upon entering it, and justifiably so, because when this game first came out, people didn't even know how to reach it for a while. You have to use a very specific emote in a very specific corner in the Irithel dungeon, and then a cutscene will play that transports you to the area. So yeah, it makes perfect sense why people didn't find this area for a bit. Also, it just looks kind of cursed to have a Dark Souls area with a normal clear blue sky. This area looks way too nice to be a part of Dark Souls, because usually we're in the middle of an apocalypse in these games. After traversing for a bit, I found the Ancient Wyvern boss. This is a complete gimmick fight. You can't really damage him normally, so what you gotta do is climb up the ramparts of the fort and then plunge attack his head to insta-kill him. It's a really easy fight that's not really technically advanced in any way, shape, or form, but I still really enjoyed this. It's such an awesome spin on the normal dragon enemy formula. Dropping onto the dragon's head for the killing blow will never not be awesome. But if you know this game, you know that nobody talks about Archdragon Peak because of the fucking Ancient Wyvern. No. People talk about Archdragon Peak because it is home to one of the most iconic bosses in all of Soulsborne. That's right, people. I'm talking about the good old Nameless King, previously seen in my Elden Ring Night Rain video. You should go check that out. And yeah, he deserves all the reputation he gets. The boss fight is near perfect, except for the fact that the camera is absolute dog shit in phase 1. But the first phase isn't very difficult anyway, so it kind of balances it out. He also has one of the coolest looking dragons in any of the games. There's not really one that looks like this. Kind of looks like a big old bird. But all you gotta do this phase is just smack the dragon in the head a bunch when there's an opening, and then you're on to the hard part. Because Nameless King mercy kills his dragon and seemingly absorbs all of its power, and now it's time for another duel. I should also mention that this dude is the firstborn son of Gwyn from Dark Souls 1. There were even statues of him around the areas in the previous games, but they got destroyed, which is very interesting. So this dude was really just in front of our faces the whole time and nobody realized it. Maybe it would have been easier if he had a name, but you know, he's the Nameless King. I actually beat this boss first try during the first playthrough, but I think I was over leveled because I was around level 95 during this fight. But this boss was definitely way more difficult during New Game Plus. I got my ass handed to me during my subsequent playthroughs of this game. His combos have a lot of weird timings, and some of them have a lightning aftershock, so that's pretty fun to deal with. Not really. And he hits like an absolute truck too. So yeah, definitely one of the hardest bosses in the game, unless you're over leveled and using one of the best weapons in the game, like me. Then you'll be just fine. But yeah, another great boss. At this point in the game, it's just banger after banger after banger. It's so impressive to me that they managed to cram this many top tier bosses into a game of this size. Like, I'd say Elden Ring probably has more better bosses, but that game also has an entire open world and an entire open world DLC. So to have this many good bosses in this small of a game compared to something like Elden Ring is certainly very impressive. But of course, you already knew that I would get a trophy for killing this boss. I mean, come on, how could you not give me a trophy for it? Back again at Lothric Castle after going through the Grand Archives, which I thought was a pretty annoying area, I find the final Lord of Cinder, Lorien. And this fight is also really good. The main gimmick with this one is the fact that Lorien teleports all over the damn place. And while this may seem extremely annoying, because believe me, I thought this fight was going to be ass at first, it's actually not. To counteract the teleporting, he doesn't have that much health, and the punish windows are still generous enough to do good damage. That, and I'm also using, again, one of the best weapons in the game. I'm sure that has an effect on the fight. And I made quick work of him. Obviously, the last Lord of Cinder wouldn't be that easy, though. So phase 2 starts, and this time he's joined by his younger brother, Prince Lothric himself. Like the dude that the whole map is named after. Kind of weird that he's hugging his brother like that, though. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like what's going on there. I guess this is technically a duo fight, even though they're kind of still one entity, because Lothric is constantly hugging Lorien like a little bitch. To win in this phase, Lorien has to be killed first, which leaves Lothric by himself. Lothric will then start to revive Lorien, and it locks him into an animation where you can just punish the hell out of him. The alternative is that you can sometimes hit Lothric while Lorien is still alive, but I didn't find this to be very consistent, so I just focused Lorien. The fight ends once Lothric dies for the first time, and like every other boss, I get a trophy for beating them. Then I quickly went back to Irithyll and got the last covenant of the game. This one is very secret and involves walking over an invisible bridge to get to it. No wonder why I didn't find this originally. And at this point, I'm done with everything in the base game except for the final boss, which I always save for last. So like all other videos, even though the DLC gives me no trophies, I'm still gonna play through it because some of the best bosses are locked behind it. The first DLC, Ashes of Ariandel, isn't really my favorite. I think the area itself is kind of boring. But holy shit, the boss at the end of it is absolute peak. And get used to me saying that because they went all out with the DLC bosses this time around. Sister Fried is an insane boss. The first phase is quite similar to Priscilla from Dark Souls 1 in the sense that she turns invisible a bunch and that you have to listen for when she's about to attack. Overall, first phase isn't very difficult. It's really just the invisibility gimmick that you have to learn. Phase 2 is where things start to get a little bonkers because this dude, Father Ariandel, decides to tag himself in, and now you gotta deal with fire and ice. I found that the best strategy is to completely ignore Sister Fried and only target Ariandel. He's much easier to hit and they have a shared health bar anyway, so might as well just go for him. Also, you gotta teach him a lesson for just barging into a fair one-on-one fight. That's kind of a dick move. And this is another duo fight done really well. Dark Souls 3 kind of nailed it when it comes to that. But this is where things get real spicy, because when you beat the second stage, it makes it seem like everything is fine and dandy until Sister Fried gets up like Michael fucking Myers with a third stage where her scythe gets black flame and she can now do a bunch of completely ridiculous attacks. As you may be able to tell, this fight takes a really long time to get through. It's basically 3 different boss fights, and it's 3 full health bars that you gotta worry about. And the third stage is by far the hardest, so be prepared to start all the way from the beginning. But after about 25 minutes, I killed Sister Fried and beat the first DLC. Yeah, there's only one mandatory boss in the DLC, which kind of sucks, but there is an optional boss. It's just this random guy and then a giant wolf. Yeah, this fight is pretty ass compared to Sister Fried. It's really not memorable. And this wolf will never be as cool as Sif. Get this shit out of my face. Alright, now the first DLC is actually done. The second DLC is definitely better because it has more bosses and they are all really good, except for one, which we'll get to in a minute. However, this first area was genuinely miserable for me. These stupid fucking butterfly angel things could suck a 23-inch horse cock. This is the closest to rage quitting that I got out of any Souls game, and I genuinely mean that. This is one of my least favorite areas ever. But luckily at the end of the area is another really awesome duo fight. This time I'm up against the demon duo. I'm pretty sure these are actually the last 2 living demons in the world. I don't know how they got here, but here they are. I actually think this fight is slightly better than Ornstein and Smo, so that's how you know it's a good duo fight. The only real annoying thing during this phase is that one of the demons can poison you for some reason, which I think is kind of stupid, but it is avoidable and not the end of the world even if you do get poisoned. The really cool part comes during phase 2. Once you beat the demons, they merge and become the Demon Prince, and this dude is ridiculously powerful. He's got a good amount of HP speed, good damage output, and goddamn laser beams. What drugs did they put this guy on in the demon realm? He's also got to be the coolest looking demon out of all of them. Definitely a really difficult fight overall. I was on this for about 30 minutes. Really good stuff though. Also, I saw this online, but this area is literally Firelink Shrine from Dark Souls 1. Look at this building. You can't tell me this is not 100% intentional. That is so fucking cool. We're finally back, boys. After the fight, I get teleported to the Ring City, the second half of this DLC, and this is one of the most beautiful areas I've ever seen. Unfortunately though, the welcoming party isn't very nice. After traveling for a while, I find a dragon who seriously wants me dead. What a douchebag. And then after a little while longer, I find him again and knock him down into a ravine. Guess that's the last we'll see of him, right? Moving on, I fought Half-Light Spear the Church, and this fight is absolute garbage. He's just a forgettable NPC boss that no one cares about. What a fucking snooze fest. Moving on to an optional area where I drop into a giant ravine. You know, I think I might have made a mistake. Yep, this is Dark Eater Midir, the dragon from earlier, and he's pretty pissed off now. You've probably heard this already, but this is one of the best dragon fights of all time. Many will put it at number 1, but I still like Bale the Dread from Elden Ring a little bit more. But still, this is absolutely phenomenal. You know how in most dragon fights, you just hit him in the foot until they drop dead? Yeah, well, you can't do that in this fight or else you'll be severely punished. You just gotta stand in front of this man, square up, and fight. Always aim for the head, it's double damage. But this was by far the hardest fight in the game for me, and it isn't even remotely close. I spent about an hour and 10 minutes trying to kill this big fella, and even when I pretty much learned the entire moveset, all it took was one minor misplay to send me back to the very start, because this is the heaviest hitter in the game by far. He also has laser beams, by the way. Yeah, don't get hit by those. Why does everyone have laser beams now? What's going on? Basically, if you download his entire moveset, don't ever get hit, and then beat him up, you're gonna win. Easy, right? Yeah, not quite. Although I was struggling to kill this boss, I still found it highly enjoyable, and I would gladly go back to fight Midir again. 10 out of 10, W Dragon. And also a really cool arena too. No wonder why they reused it for Shadow of the Erdtree. But moving on to the fan favorite boss in the entire trilogy. This is the final boss of the DLC and probably the best technical boss in the game. And of course, it's Slave Knight Gale. If you watch someone rank every Souls boss, chances are this guy is in the top 3, and he usually ain't number 3 or 2. He's just an exceptionally well-made boss. Just the concept alone is amazing. It's just the two strongest beings in the universe duking it out at the very end of time. And if that doesn't sound cool to you, then you might be a member of the Fun Police, and we don't accept you around these parts. Get the fuck out. The fight itself is also really difficult. I still haven't fully gotten the hang of the second phase. I was on it for about 30 minutes, and the run where I beat him, I used up all my flasks, so it definitely wasn't a clean run, and I could have lost at any moment. I completely understand why people put him at number 1. He's an absolute badass. The fight itself is pretty much perfect, and it's literally the final Dark Souls boss that they've ever made. We'll see if Dark Souls 4 ever comes out. I highly doubt it. But that's the end of the DLC. Let's kill the final boss of the base game now. And it's the good old Soul of Cinder. The lore of this boss is some of the coolest lore I've ever seen. Basically, the Soul of Cinder is every single person in history that linked the fire. So that includes Gwyn, the final boss of Dark Souls 1, the 4 Lords of Cinder from this game, my Dark Souls 1 character, your Dark Souls 1 character, and also our Dark Souls 2 characters. It's everybody versus me. This is their last stand to stop us from putting an end to the Age of Fire, and it is absolutely amazing. The OST is top tier. The boss whips out ninja flips from Dark Souls 1 because that is a very popular ring to use in that game. So naturally, with all the souls of the Dark Souls 1 players, he would know how to do that. He also uses a bunch of other cool techniques used by us throughout the years. It really is the perfect finale to an amazing trilogy. And then we come full circle when Phase 2 hits, because the soul of Gwyn, the very first Lord of Cinder, takes the reins completely, and it basically turns into a rematch from Dark Souls 1. Band for band, bar for bar. Even the music kicks in. The plin plin plons are in full effect, ladies and gentlemen. This might be the best final boss out of any Souls game. Keep in mind, I'm saying this without playing Sekiro yet, so I'll have to see if the final boss in that game is better than the Soul of Cinder, but for now, Soul of Cinder is the best final boss FromSoft has ever made, in my humble opinion. Another absolutely perfect fight, in my opinion, and with the final boss dead, I get the first ending of the game. For this ending, I chose to end the Age of Fire once and for all, and bring on the Age of Dark, which sounds pretty fucking sinister, but it's really not. It's just the next natural step in the order of the world. And it was supposed to happen much sooner, but the Lords of Cinder kept lighting the damn fire, so that's how we got to this point. So I swear I'm not the bad bad guy here, they are. And they're also fucking dead. So joke's on them, I guess. Also, I'm pretty sure this is the canon ending of the game. It feels the most conclusive. And there we go. We get the final trophy for the platinum. Oh, wait. No, we didn't. I still have to play the game 2 more times. Fuck. And do covenant grinding for ridiculously low drop rate items. I love platinuming games. It's my favorite. Now for some random miscellaneous trophies. I got my weapon to max level. And I actually did this in my last playthrough, but I forgot to mention it. So here it is. I also put every type of infusion on my weapons for another trophy. And then I got the max amount of Estus and then fully upgraded its power. So that gives me 2 more trophies. And now we can get into the next step of the platinum. Collecting all the miracles, sorceries, and pyromancies. Here comes the covenant farming. Yeah, they thought it was a good idea to gatekeep a bunch of spells behind covenants, which there are quite a lot of in this game. And you have to offer a certain amount of an item to a covenant to then get the spells from that covenant. And from here you have 2 choices. Play multiplayer or farm enemies for hours to get the items at like a 1% drop rate, but you don't really have to think about it at all. There's no brain power. And unfortunately, for the most part, I had to do the latter, because the servers are quite dead except for weekends. On weekends I played multiplayer because as bad as I am at PvP, and believe me, I'm actually like really bad, like terrible. I don't understand Dark Souls PvP for the life of me. It's still infinitely more fun than killing the same 2 enemies over and over and over again. For some of the items though, I was lucky enough to have a friend farm invasions with me, so I had a much easier time getting like half of these. So whoever you are out there, you're probably watching this right now. Thank you. For a couple of the items though, I did just opt to farm them offline because the servers were just not working for me at the time. So time to slave away for a bunch of hours to get 1 spell that I'm never gonna use in game. I think this game genuinely made me hate covenants. I never loved the system, probably because I never played these games in their heyday, so I never really got to experience like covenant warfare or whatever, but this game truly ruined it for me. I hope they never bring these fucking things back after what they did to them in this game. And I love Dark Souls 3, but my god, the whole covenant farming segment was the most brutal experience so far out of any fucking video I've done. It's just so mind-numbing and utterly uninteresting. Part of the reason this video has taken so long to come out is because I got burnt out midway through doing this and took like a week-long break from playing this game because the system is just absolute garbage. But after a while, I got all the miracles, sorceries, and pyromancies. Thank God it's over. I could stay on this segment for like an hour talking about everything I had to grind for, but let's be honest. Y'all don't want to hear me talk about all that boring ass shit. And for my sanity, I think I'm just gonna move on now because the next trophies are not nearly as bad. During my New Game Plus playthrough, I opted to go for the highly missable Usurpation of Fire ending. It's not really that hard to get as long as you watch a video because there's a lot of very weird things you have to do at specific times in the playthrough. But basically, long story short, this ending involves you becoming the Lord of the Undead. And the best thing about this ending is that your character gets bitches. Like this cutscene is literally a wedding ceremony. Even though I'm literally stabbing my wife to death here, just ignore that part. She'll be back at the end, trust. And then after killing the Soul of Cinder once more, here we go. Look how badass this shit is. It's basically the Dark Lord ending from Dark Souls 1. There's pretty much no difference actually. That was my favorite ending in that game, and it's probably still my favorite ending in this game. Alright, time for New Game Plus 2. The main thing I have to do this playthrough is collect all the rings because there's New Game Plus and New Game Plus 2 exclusive rings. There are also a bunch of Covenant rings, but I already got those. This was one of my least favorite parts of Dark Souls 2, and of course they brought it back. I also collected all the gestures this run. I think I could have done it a lot sooner, but I low-key forgot this was even a trophy. So I got it here on my 3rd playthrough. And at the very end of New Game Plus 2, I got the stupid ring trophy. Thank God, the whole entire time I was scared I was gonna miss something and have to do a whole nother playthrough, but we're good. And then after killing the Soul of Cinder one more time, I got the Link the Fire ending, which is the basic bitch default ending that you don't have to do anything special to get. And this is probably the worst ending in the game because you link the fire again, and at this point the poor flame has been linked so many times that it barely even gets lit up when you do it. It's just really depressing and makes your whole playthrough feel fucking useless. The fire just can't get it up anymore. It sounds like it needs Blue Chew, the sponsor of today's video. I'm just kidding, there's no sponsor. I'm poor. Maybe poor, but now I'm 1 platinum richer, bitches. Well, that was Dark Souls 3. As you can tell, I think this game is phenomenal. I pretty much glazed every aspect of this game except those stupid stupid ass covenants. If I were to critique Dark Souls 3, I'd say the beginning is overall kind of weak. Like, most of the bosses aren't that good in the beginning. I'd say the game truly becomes goated once you hit Irithel, which doesn't take that long to get to, but there's a good chunk there that's just kind of not that good. Some of the early bosses like Udex Gundyr and Abyss Watchers are absolutely amazing though, but they're kind of just in a sea of mid. Alright, now time for the ranking. This is where it gets really tough. I will say I think Elden Ring is still number 1, and I'm going to also say that I don't think anything can beat Elden Ring. I have nostalgia for it at this point because I played it when it first came out, and this series has helped me realize that Elden Ring is probably just my favorite game of all time. So Dark Souls 3 is just not on that level for me, I don't think. But the hard part of ranking this game is, do I like it more than Bloodborne? This also comes down to what I value most in these games. I think Bloodborne definitely has the better atmosphere and exploration, but to tell you the truth, I value boss fights more than anything in these games, and I think Dark Souls 3 wins in that regard. Not by much, because Bloodborne does have some all-timers, but as of now, I'm putting Dark Souls 3 barely in number 2, like really marginally. But like, talk to me again in a week and I'll probably say I like Bloodborne more. This will flip-flop like a million times, I bet. But as of now, it's going in number 2. I put it in 3 if I was taking the Covenant grinding into consideration, because the Bloodborne Platinum was overall pretty good. But these rankings aren't based on the Platinum, it's just based on how much I enjoyed the game. And obviously, you don't need to do the Covenant grinding to enjoy Dark Souls 3. It's also just the most similar game to Elden Ring, so naturally, if Elden Ring is my favorite game of all time, then Dark Souls 3 will probably be up there somewhere as well. So there you have it. There's only one Souls game left in Sekiro. We'll tackle that in the next video. If you enjoy this, drop a like and a sub, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Take care. Now get out of here.